Welcome to A Magical Life, Health, Wealth and Weight Loss. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, lead practitioner at Holistic Natural Health Australia and #1 best-selling author. In this podcast, I aim to give you practical tips on how to accelerate and sustain your health, increase your financial, spiritual and emotional wealth, and to look at something that haunts many of us needlessly, weight loss. In some episodes, I'll have guests available to give you even more tips, but in others, the floor is yours. Drop us a line at A Magical Life Podcast on Facebook and let me know what you would like to know more about. Now, sit back and enjoy, because it is time for you to create and truly discover a magical life. Welcome back to A Magical Life. I'm your host, Magic Barclay, and I'm again joined today by Cindy Van Arnam. Cindy has been through so much in her life, and it has led her to where she is today, being a certified universal laws coach, program manager of Mastering the Brain Game, master quantum numerologist, and chief operations officer for Mindshift LLC. Welcome back, Cindy.
Thank you so much. I'm excited for this conversation.
Thanks for rejoining us. Now, we touched in episode 150 on a few things that you do, but I really want to open that up. So can you tell us, first of all, numerology? What is it? How does it work? And how can it be applied to the situations people are finding themselves in today?
Yes, love this question. Favorite topic of all time. Numerology is an ancient science that has been covered up and hidden and put in secret libraries and made out to be some sort of woo-woo magical thing. And numerology is actually an intuitive science. Everything, when you boil it down to it, it comes down to math. And that's what numerology is. So everything in the quantum field has a mathematical code to it. Now, we've simplified a lot of this system, and we've gone back to the absolute foundation of numerology with the system that we use to really dive into what our mathematical code is as a human being, as a soul, and what lessons we came here to learn, what challenges we might be facing, how we think, how we relate in our relationships, how we express ourselves. There's literally no answer you cannot find in numerology, which is what I love. Anybody asks me a question, I'm like, I'll just go look at your chart and I'll find the answer to that right away. So for me, numerology was the key to my awakening. It helped me see myself. When I first received my first reading, it was as if I was remembering who I was. It didn't seem unfamiliar. It was as if somebody was talking to my soul before I was born and saying, this is what you chose. And as I've developed my skills as a reader, as I've worked very, very closely with my business partner, Joy Kingsborough, we've just uncovered more and more of these pieces. She is a channel for a stream of consciousness that we call Jonah. And Jonah has brought this work front and center for us. And we're moving this work out into the world in a big way because it really can answer any question you've got.
So to do someone's numerology, what kind of base data do you need?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question because in astrology, we often need the time of birth. Now, I'm not an astrologer. I don't have a lot of experience with astrology, but with numerology, usually what we ask for is the full date of birth. We don't need the time. But we can also look at it just from the month and the day of birth as well, if we don't have the year. And we have actually done readings for people who don't know their date of birth, who ended up on the firehouse station steps and don't have any idea of when they were born. We can actually do some intuitive work to get very, very close to their numerology. It's interesting that you bring this question up. I just had a guest on my podcast yesterday who thought his date of birth was one day, but then 30 years later received his birth certificate and it was the next day. So as I was doing his numerology reading, he said, "Oh, that doesn't really resonate with me." And he told me his other date of birth. So I did numerology for that. And instantly we knew that that was his real date of birth. So we get to play with it a lot. But most of the time I ask for a full date of birth because that gives me a really clear picture.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm a Taurian and I love the fact that I know I'm a Taurian, but there is no way I can actually tell you what time I was born. I know what day I was born, but my mother never remembered what time. So, when I've tried to look at what moons and suns and blah, 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 everything, it's like, well, you need the time. So many
Yes.
people just don't have that.
Yeah, and what I love the most, I actually booked myself an astrology reading about a year and a half ago because I was really curious to see how the two lined up. And I had been working with numerology for about 4 years at the time, and I booked an astrology reading with someone who was very highly referred. And as she was delivering the reading to me, I'm like, oh my goodness, like it was so on point with my numerology. And I was literally just going, check, already doing that, check, already doing that, check, already doing that. So I actually found out I wasn't missing anything from not knowing my time of birth with astrology, and it was right on point. The astrological system is actually birthed out of numerology as well, because everything boils down to math in the long run.
That is so cool. Now, tell us, what is the brain game?
The brain game. The brain game is a transformational journey that absolutely saved my life and has saved countless other people's lives in understanding, number one, emotional mastery, and number two, letting go of control. So fundamentally, it's a 10-week transformational journey. It's you work with a coach in order to do it. You can either do it through group or private. And it's a 10-week journey where you are being walked through the law of divine timing. So we walk you through 6 stages in that law of divine timing, where we start at a point because it's circular, nothing is linear. So we just pick a pinpoint. We start at awareness of understanding what it is that you want or what it is that's going on with your emotional state. Perhaps you're in a place where you don't even know what's going on. And so we bring you into that awareness. Then we step into the next stage of divine timing, which is acceptance, and bringing everyone into an acceptance of, I made mistakes. This is who I am. I'm willing to forgive myself. I'm willing to forgive the other people, and really restoring the flow of life. Because oftentimes, if we're holding on to anything, if we have not accepted, then we're really just holding on and harming ourselves. So we walk you through that process and then move you into self-responsibility, which is choosing the life that you want to live, of really stepping forward. And we work on multiple different levels. This journey works with, health, wealth, entrepreneurs. I've seen it done with corporate. We use it in all different areas of the world. And then we move into activation, where we're helping you to understand that it's not your job to know how. One of my biggest things before is I worked as a virtual assistant, and I had a belief that if I just worked a little bit harder, somehow I would break through and have that magical $5,000 month. I remember that moment so clearly. And I just kept hustling and grinding and trying to control the material world. And when I went through the brain game, I remember Joy telling me, if you just went out on the patio and meditated more, you'd make more money. And I thought, what is this woman talking about? I was so confused. And then I said, well, what else do I have to lose? Because I was broke. I was living PayPal to PayPal. I was literally in adrenal fatigue. I was killing myself. So I decided to make space and go out on the patio, and I would try to meditate. Sometimes I would just sit there, and I created space for inspiration. Instead of me trying to control and manipulate everything in my business, I opened myself up to the possibilities that were available, and it allowed me to expand my business and have far and beyond a $5,000 month. So that's the activation stage. Then it hits momentum and then transmutation, and you change, and then you just do it all over again, because the divine timing cycle never stops. but you walk hand in hand with a coach with Brain Game. It completely changes your life for the better. We have countless testimonials from clients who are blown away by taking it the first time, and they come back and take it over and over and over again because it's so transformational.
That sounds amazing. Listeners, jump onto that. That sounds, I can't wait to do it myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something that I'm passionate about. Brain Game being a household verb. It is something that I've seen save so many lives. I mean, we're not doctors, but I have seen people go from anxiety so bad that they can't even drive across town to driving 8 hours in a snowstorm and not even thinking about it. I've seen people, expand their businesses beyond their wildest dreams. I've seen so many things happen as a result of Brain Game, but I can't teach it all. So we actually certify coaches to teach the Brain Game and to walk their own clients through this. It's a full-on business in a box. We give you everything, including business training. We Brain Game your business, community support, all the good stuff.
What an amazing service. Now, Cindy, I'm going to open the mic to you now. What is something we haven't covered that you think the listeners need to hear today?
Yeah. So another modality that I work with is something, again, that came from Joy Kingsborough and her channel, Jonah. And it's not a healing modality. Let me be very, very clear about this. Many of us, especially in the awakening process, we focus on the healing of the forgiveness, of letting go of old patterns and things like that. And there is a place for healing. Absolutely. I needed it back in the day, for sure. But what we're working with now is called quantum expansion. We've labeled it Q. So you'll see hashtag do the Q everywhere. And Q is a creation modality. So once we've gotten to a place where we understand as a human being that we are whole, we are united, there is nothing wrong with us. And this does take some work. We work with universal laws. We work within the course of Mind Shift, and we help you to understand all these laws so that you can come into the essence of you and truly understand that you are not broken, that there is nothing wrong with you. And in that, you begin to create. We all create our own reality, but oftentimes we're so busy healing and addicted to the healing process that we forget that we were actually brought here to play in the material experience. So this quantum expansion is a modality that we use. It is not meditation and it is not a healing modality, but we activate the quantum field within our own bodies and amplify that energy within our own body. We're like these little power generators, and we amplify that using the power of the heart, and we move that energy out into the world. We create circuits within the quantum field that allow us to create whatever it is that we desire. So there's a few key pieces. It's really important that you know those three things: that who are you, what do you want, why do you want it? And if you know those three things and you've come to the place where you know your own essence, you can start running Q and create a magical life.
I love that. Now, Cindy, where can people get hold of you the best to maybe look at this business in a box or to work with you? What's the best way to get hold of you?
Absolutely. So Facebook is one place, but definitely my website, cindyvanarnam.com. There's a contact form on there. You can just email me and say, hey, I heard you on this podcast. I really want to have a chat. I love getting on Zoom and meeting face to face and having a conversation. The work that I do is not something that I'm just going to sell you off my website. You will not find buy now buttons on my website. This is a conversation. It's a relationship. I'm passionate about community. I want to get to know you. So book a call with me, grab a free reading off my website, book that call with me, and we can just have a conversation and find out what's the best fit for you.
I love that. Truly of service. Thank you so much. And now one last question. Numerology. Back to that.
Yeah, of course.
This is a question running around in my brain, so it needs to come out. What happens if you don't like what you see?
Oh, yeah, that happens sometimes. So not liking what you see simply means that either you're not seeing yourself for who you are, or you're in resistance in some way. I've worked with clients a lot who they're like, I don't resonate with that. Or they just simply they're like, nope, that's not me. And we just work through that. There's a level of acceptance that comes with it. And sometimes, if you're not ready to see it, you're not ready to see it. And that's okay. You're only going to hear what you need to hear in that moment, if that conversation. Same thing as on this podcast. You're only going to hear what you need to hear. And if you come back and listen to it again, you're going to hear something different based on your energetic pattern in the very moment. So sometimes you like what you see, sometimes you don't. That's the same with anything in life. And most of the time, I would say 99.999% of the time, everybody loves what they see.
I'm so glad I asked that question.
Yeah.
So listeners, you can find Cindy at cindyvanarnam.com. She's also on Facebook at Van Arnam Cindy, Instagram Van Arnam Cindy, and of course on LinkedIn, Cindy Van Arnam. Cindy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, I hope that this has resonated with your audience. And for those of you who are out there listening, just love yourself just 1% more today. That's all you got to do.
Terrific advice. Coming up in episode 152 is Amanda Kate, who is a divine, messy human. Listeners, thank you again. Go forth and create your magical life. Thanks for listening today. Please subscribe to hear future episodes, leave a review, and share this podcast. You can follow us on Facebook at A Magical Life Podcast or at Holistic Natural Health Australia. That's holistic with a W. You can find us on Instagram at Holistic Natural Health or at www.holisticnaturalhealth.com.au. That's where you'll access all sorts of articles, freebies, and more.